welcome to the Buckets and Tea NBA show. I'm your host, Cathryn. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode. Today, my special guest is a very amazing comedian. He's honestly one of the funniest people in the whole country. He's going to be in Ottawa, so shout out to our Ottawa peeps. Sorry, did you just say June 24th and 25th?
Yeah, the end of this month, the Laugh Lounge in Ottawa. I think it's in Bywood Market. Apparently, I'm really excited to play there. It's supposed to be an awesome club. So I'm looking forward to that.
At the Laugh Lounge. Give it up for Ian Gordon.
All right. Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. That's honestly the first time I've needed an assist on the intro. So I appreciate that. I should have wrote it down and I didn't. But here we are.
It's a basketball podcast. Perfect place to give assists.
There you go. Beauty. We're going to talk about the NBA finals and everything that's going on there, some coaching changes stuff, and then we'll get into our Raptors Homer Moment in the second half. But let's start off with these finals. We're recording this on Monday, June 6th. We've had game 1 and game 2. First of all, Ian, I just want to know, what are your general thoughts on this series so far?
It's been an interesting series for sure. Game 1 was crazy. I think like myself and everybody else was like, okay, well, it's over. And then that fourth quarter happened, which was insane. It was crazy. It was weird. Like, I don't even know. But I'm glad, just from somebody who wants to see a good finals, it was great to see that happen. Put some pressure on Golden State. Game 1 was wild. It was, especially the first quarter when Curry, what did he have, 7 threes or 6 in the first quarter? Something like that.
Yeah.
He shot the ball like crazy. Usually when he does that, you're like, they're going to win by like 50 points, and they're going to just demolish. But credit to Boston to hold on, really. And somehow, again, that fourth quarter they had scored them like 40-16, like crazy. And game 2, if I was a gambler, I would have bet that bet. I felt like Golden State was going to come out and respond, especially for a team who's got that much championship experience, right? They know the importance of winning game 2. They know that they can't give up both of their home games right away. So I really expected that to happen. And yeah, a guy like Draymond is the cog of that whole team, right? I mean, everyone knows that, but
yeah,
he got fouled out in game 1. And they lost at the end. And then he played a typical Draymond game in game 2. And, they're a great team. They really, Golden State, credit to them and credit to their whole run they've had. They've been great for so long now, if you really think about it. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that's sort of my argument for rooting for the Warriors in this series, is that like sometimes people are just so close to like greatness that I just want to see it happen. Yeah. And that's how I feel with this team. It's like they're so close to having it. I just really want them to have it, because I think like I know some people are like kind of sick of the Warriors, but for me, being a lifelong basketball fan, like I'm gonna miss Steph Curry. Like he is the greatest shooter I've ever seen, watching basketball for like 26 years. I'm aging myself. I do it every episode, but but it's just like we are gonna miss watching him play, and I think he really is that special. I know people are kind of getting ahead of themselves in terms of like throwing him into a top 10 conversation. I don't know if he's there yet, but I think I'm kind of derailing from my little list. Fine. But I think it's on the table. It's like he's not there yet, but it's on the table, and it's just really cool to watch someone in real time potentially take it.
He's amazing, right? I've always been a LeBron fan, and I liked him in high school and followed him all through up the Cleveland days. And so when he was going against Curry, he was a total strike fear in you player.
Yeah.
Like there's not that many players that do that, really. When they have the ball at a crucial point of the game, you're terrified. And Steph Curry is like that, but he's almost like, there were times where it was almost every time he had the ball, period. Like first quarter, second quarter, he's going to hit a three. It's crazy. And such an amazing shooter. I didn't watch Larry Bird. You can watch his highlights. His highlight package is ridiculous. The guy is amazing. And there's been a lot of other good shooters like Reggie Miller. But I just don't think that they hold a candle to this like almost like surreal ability that he possesses to hit these shots that are just like, and to your point, when you talk about putting him in the top 10, I think you have a legitimate case, because if you look at the players that are in the top 10, typically they're doing something that nobody else can do. That's kind of what, I mean, maybe that's one of the categories, how you separate it. Like, this guy Hook and Will Chamberlain, they had to change the shot clock for him. And like Steph Curry's totally changed the game too. People shooting more threes in the pro game, changing how defenses were schemed, and then like trickle down right into like rec leagues where people like are pulling up from three and not going for a wide open layup. Like, based on those criteria alone and just the winningness of that team, I could put him in the top 10. I wouldn't be like upset. But the question is, who do you have to kick off? You have to kick off obviously somebody who's amazing. And a lot of the consensus top 10s don't have that many guards.
Right.
I don't know. But I would put him on there and I wouldn't be upset. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you completely. I think, we're getting to a point with basketball where it's just impossible to lump all the eras into one thing.
Yeah.
Because
totally.
Realistically, like, we didn't watch Bill Russell play. We didn't watch Wilt Chamberlain play. Like, we would feel differently if we had actually watched them play, and I think it's just becoming more and more impossible that it's like, I think, sort of like how they did with the 75, where it was like, there was no bumping anyone off a list. It was like, that 50 is locked. And now you're just bringing in a new 25. I think that's going to be how, I mean, it's more fun to to debate and be like, who's getting off the list. But realistically, I think that's how it's going to have to be going forward in order to have like an accurate representation of what everyone actually meant to the sport. That's very philosophical for us off the top.
No, but you're right. You have a point. And it's hard to compare generations. The game was different. The athleticism, I mean, you could make a case that the people like that are the top athletes in the 60s and 70s aren't too far away. The equipment is better in this day and age, and training and everything, and all that.
Well, equipment, the shoes, the sports, science, nutrition.
But like, I mean, if you take one of those guys off the top 10 and put Steph Curry in, you're gonna peeve off a lot of old timey folks, and that's cool. But if you put him on the top 10, I don't think anybody could legitimately argue with you and be like, this is a bad choice, because he really now, when you can reflect on his career, he has changed the way the game has been played. He's been totally influential in the NBA and in global basketball. So, that's just the fact.
I wish we had planned this conversation a little bit, because in my mind, I'm like, it would have been so funny when you're like, who you knock off? And I'm like, Jordan. Let's knock off Michael Jordan. And I just started arguing just to be the worst contrarian of all time. I wouldn't actually mean that, but that just would have been a very funny response.
Imagine, Jordan's got to go. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that guy's a piece of shit and he needs to go.
The guy couldn't play basketball.
Yeah. He had to make a whole documentary just to try and hang on.
Have you seen it? It was highly edited. Everything he did was very suspect. No, but Steph's amazing. He's great. He's fun to watch and scary to watch if you're rooting for the team that he's playing against. But I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see.
Yeah, going back to the series for a bit, like I was shocked when Boston took game 1, but I was also super excited because I was like, we are going to have a series. Like, this we're going to get a game 7 in these finals, I think. And I'm really excited. I mean, you saw how the Warriors adjusted in game 2. I think there were more defensive schemes with Draymond on Tatum. And I think Boston's going to respond. They're going to adjust. There's been a lot of talk about the foul calls in game 2. We're going to get into that. I will just say that, like, Draymond is not going to get the benefit of the whistle in Boston. I don't think. Like, when he had that little scuffle with Jaylen Brown and he kind of like tugged at his shorts a little bit there, and they reviewed it and chose not to call a second tech on Draymond just to not kick him out of the game. A lot of people are talking about that, like, hey, you know what? Like, any other game, like, that's a tech, man. Like, there's been a precedence in this, especially in this year, in these playoffs, where that is a tech, but they just didn't want to kick him out of the game. And I think officials, this might be a hot take for me, but I don't think officials actually want to influence the game, but sometimes you force their hand and then they kind of have to. And I think they were like, we don't want our hand to be forced here right now. And so they didn't do it. I mean, I don't know. Like, if something like that happens in Boston, like, I think he gets thrown out.
Totally. A lot of it, especially after all the press and the heat that it garnered after game 2, pardon me, you have to figure that game 3 he's going to have to toe a line. And game 3 is going to be really crazy and hot because it's in Boston. People are going to be trash talking. I have expected him to not dumb it down that much. He knows how effective it is. And what Draymond's also good at is towing the line between knowing how much he can get away with, what ref he's dealing with. You know, the guy, he's definitely with it. And he impacted the game. When they're talking about what you did, how it kind of got under their skin after the game, that means that it totally worked. And if that's kind of what he does. And he doesn't, I don't know, he does that. He's known for it, but he ramps it up when he has to. Another guy he's one of these guys who you love to hate because he doesn't play for your team, I guess.
Yeah,
he's really good, man. He's very on that team. He plays his role very well. But I do, there's the flopping and all the stuff that I can understand why people don't like it, and to an extent I don't either. But he makes the game entertaining for sure.
I will say this, like, I think, like you said, he's really good at towing the line. I personally do like Draymond. I think he's a great player. I think he's a phenomenal defender. And I think he knows how to, like you said, knows how to get under players' skin or under his opponent's skin. But I think there is a line, like, because I really dislike Patrick Beverley. And I feel like in this game too, Draymond was like getting really close to that Patrick Beverley-ness, where I was like, now I don't like it, because now it's too like antic-y as opposed to it just being competitive spirit. Like, now it's like we're getting into like this next level, like you're the Joker on the, you know what I mean?
It's like too rude, and it just doesn't. There needs to be some like sportsmanship and gamesmanship with it a little bit. Has to be a part of the game. If you take it completely out of the game, then it isn't. I will see. I wonder if he'll get booted, because again, when he goes, historically in important games, they lose those games. So he kind of needs to be around. I also think that maybe he's going to keep that top of mind and be like, okay, shit, I really can't get kicked out of this game, because if I do, we're in big trouble. And they are. Like, if he goes, they're in trouble.
Like, I for as long as I live, I will never forget the fact that the Warriors were about to become the greatest team of all time, completely undisputed, until he kicked too many people in the balls.
I mean, that's just what happened. And again,
it's literally there's no like for all the greatness that Cleveland had in that game 7, and Kyrie's shot and LeBron's block, some of the greatest basketball stuff we've ever seen. So at least we got to have that. But
happened because of what he did.
There is no game 7 if he just doesn't kick people in the balls.
And again, this is kind of what about towing the line, is like, if you play that way, if that's your style, and a part of you is how you affect the game being in, that way, then shit like that's going to happen. And you're going to have to take that. You're going to have to like swallow that as a professional. I think he just has to be like,
yeah, which he
I got
has.
kicked out of the game. That was stupid on my behalf. But I've done some other stuff that's good.
And I think I think he's gone so far as to
Yeah.
admit that like if he didn't do that, they would have won. Like I think he's very
Oh,
self-aware.
he would love to say that for
He
sure.
would say that he's narcissistic enough to
Yeah. Oh,
take
yeah.
credit in that weird like loophole-y kind of way. Like still,
Oh,
it's
totally.
all about me still.
The made up world, he'd be like, yeah, I win. I also win in the made up world too.
Yeah. Hashtag what new media. That's what he keeps saying now. New media, new media. With his podcast. We're the new media and we're better. And it's
I had a
like
few concussions, let's be honest.
You know what I mean? He absolutely has. I mean, like I like watching. I watch some of his podcast on YouTube. Like I just like I get.
I've
some
never
clips.
watched it. I've always thought it was going to be. I want to watch it. I just don't have the time, but I would love to.
No, it's
sorry to cut you off.
No worries. That's totally fair. Like I think what Draymond brings is his perspective, which is an interesting perspective, but I don't think Draymond could ever be non-biased. Like he's never going to give you that non-biased point of view. So it's like, yes, we love your perspective and we love your point of view, but it can't be the only point of view you consume. That's not the way to the truth.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any NBA player could ever be non-biased because it's like when you're in it, of course it's going to be totally different. But just in general, like the idea that like Draymond's like, no, I'm the truth. I'm the new media. Listen to me. It's all about me. And then, nobody else matters. And it's like, that's a bit much. He doesn't say that word for word, but he implies
this is also why I love Steph and he's really a consummate professional. But when he wins, Draymond also wins. So I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah. I actually, if anything, that also speaks to Steph that he's been able to play with Draymond all these years. Like so few superstars would be able to play with Draymond for this long. I mean, look at Kevin Durant.
Steph's a pro. He just wants to win. He really, there's not a whole lot of bad things you can say about the guy. And that's coming from somebody who has watched him crush many, teams that I've been rooting for and players. So it's hard to say that, but he's great. He's great. He's great to watch.
I will say about the Celtics, I can't remember if I said this last week or not, but if this team were in a different city, I would love this team.
Yeah.
Like if they were the Cincinnati somethings or something like, like if we didn't have this like F Boston type history with them, I would love this team. There's nothing unlikable about them. And I think because like, I'm just going to admit my own bias here because there's so much biased pro Boston media in the NBA American landscape that I tend to think that their hype is a little overblown. And I think in previous years it has been. So, but I didn't see this year coming. I thought Milwaukee was going to win. Granted, that was a 7-game series and it did come to the wire. And I did say it was going to be hard to call. But this whole trajectory of this team, I did not see coming. They got off to a rough start. I was complaining that they had 2 all-stars in the all-star game and that the record, they didn't earn 2 people in the all-star game. Like, and now here they are in the finals 1-1. This turnaround has been absolutely phenomenal. And this could be like a whole other narrative playing out like right under my nose. And I didn't see it because I was looking the other way.
Totally. I mean, they're a great team. They're deep. They've won some big games against good competition. They seem to know who they are. Like everyone's got a role, pretty disciplined. Having Marcus Smart, like having an amazing wing defender is huge in the NBA. Like if you can shut down, because most really good teams have an amazing player on the wing who's disrupting, hitting threes. Like if you can have somebody who can guard that guy or at least do a above average job, it's going to help so much. And I love Jason Tatum. He's amazing. Man. He has come he's still young, but he's just gotten better every year. He's another one of these guys who is super likable. Like he just seems to want to play ball, and
Mm-hmm.
he's just seems cool. Like I feel like
Yeah,
again
like they
another
seem
player
like
who's
nice
like
guys. They seem like they'd be
yeah,
they'd be fun to
yeah,
hang out with. Like they seem
yeah,
like a
and
cool
Jaylen
group.
Brown, like they've they've really impressed me, and it's hard to say that as somebody who has a rivalry with them from the Raps. Like it sucks saying that, but again, they're likable. They don't have typically Boston has a player where I'm just like, oh, or more. Like, but Tatum has won me over. You have to
Mhm.
love that basketball. He really knows how to play the game. I love his mid-range game. Like he's such a good decision maker. Um, it's been great watching them, and I hate to say that, but it's true.
Yeah, I know, like, I think in all the years I've watched basketball and probably ever since the Larry Bird era, this is easily the most likable Celtics team.
Totally.
Like,
And
I
yeah, I agree.
like the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett era, like, they were villains.
They totally were.
They
They
were
were total
villains.
heels,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
Anytime you have Kevin Garnett on your team, you're probably a heel a little bit because he's
yeah.
the ultimate. I love Garnett, but he's totally somebody that another guy you wish was on your team, right? You have to play him, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
very that.
Garnett every time.
Very that. Yeah, you know
Mhm.
what? If Garnett were playing now, he would have that Draymond Green like reputation.
Oh
Where
yeah,
before he was just known for being like tough,
his game.
but
He's got one of
not
those
like
games
he
like
wasn't known for being like was he? I don't recall him being known for being extremely difficult.
he was just like he was in your face intense. I don't
Yeah,
think
he
he
was
ever did
tense and he
anything.
was known for being a trash talker. That
Yeah.
I
Oh,
remember.
totally,
But I
totally,
feel like a Rasheed Wallace was more known for being difficult or having like a bad rep with like the reputation
totally.
with the refs. And
Hmm.
he was the one that was known for getting like all the texts and he got like more calls against him than like anybody else in the league.
Oh yeah, Rashid. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
but I remember Garnett just being like a trash talker and like a fierce competitor. But I think if he
Yeah.
were playing now, he would be known for being like pesky and difficult.
Oh, totally. He's one of those guys who's so fiery. He's going to do whatever it takes. It would be great to see him playing in this era, actually, because
Yeah,
his game translates to it as well. Great shooter.
he
He
did
can
have an
drive.
outside shot.
Yeah, he can even post you up like and an
Yeah,
amazing defender. Yeah, he's amazing.
but still a
Kevin Garnett's
villain.
amazing. Oh, totally.
But still a
You
villain.
can't.
I
Yeah, you can't
I
deny
there's been
that.
2 players that have really made, like, serious comebacks in this playoffs. On the Celtics, you have Al Horford,
Hmm.
have and on the Warriors, you have Andrew Wiggins.
Oh man.
One thing I asked you, which is bad of me because I phrased it like a yes or no question, this is bad podcasting, but I asked, like, have you been on Wiggins Island?
Yeah, I used to watch his high school mixtapes,
Did you really?
and
Okay, you're
oh yeah,
hardcore.
and if you because he was local, right? And so people were like, man, Wiggins, and hear his name, and you'd go online, and his high school tapes are crazy. Some of the craziest dunks you'll see, he was throwing them down in high school like it was nothing, like
Mm,
it was nothing. And then he went to Kansas, like he had a good career. Like I think he only played 1 year. He might have played two, but I think it was just one. And I think Joel Embiid was on the team that year, but he might have been hurt. But anyway, he played pretty well at Kansas, and I think what really, if you get drafted to the Timberwolves, God help you, honestly, because
yeah.
they can kill people's careers. They're right now. Poor Carl Anthony Towns is still there, but
Mhm.
it was the worst place for him to land. It's like when people land at the right place, where you're like somebody like Luka goes to Dallas, and you're like that seems like a really good fit. Whereas like when he got drafted to the T Wolves, I was like, oh, that's not going to be good for his career. He's going to be, they're just not good at developing. And when he went to Golden State, by the way, I was like looking up that trade, just when I was checking some stuff out today,
Yeah.
and man, they fleeced Golden State totally fleeced them. Eh? Like they gave him like D'Angelo Russell, who was good at the time. Like he was a number 2 draft pick, but they got like nothing. And then they also drafted. They got like a 7th-round draft or 7th overall draft pick.
A 7th round draft pick. Are we in the draft?
Yeah. They drafted me. I played 2 games for the Golden State Warriors. No, but I'm happy, super happy for Wiggins. He's like, he seems like a perfect fit for the team. He's it's weird because I was really expecting him to come into the league and totally dunk on everybody and like just be like a Ja Morant aggressive dunking on everybody. But I guess he just isn't that type of player. And what he's been able to do at Golden State is really hone who he is. I think they kind of just let him be. They had a good enough team where they're like, who are you? Like, what do you want to do? You know what I mean? How do you want to impact the game? And he's really thriving in his role, and I'm super happy for him. Again, if Golden State won, he would get a ring, which is cool too. He's a local guy.
Yeah. Real quick, I believe he was drafted by the Cavaliers, and then they traded him, right?
That's right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right on that.
But yeah, like I remember that. I remember Wiggins being like, "I just want to play where people want me."
Yeah.
And I remember really feeling sorry for him. Like that must be hard to like look up to LeBron James because he's involved.
That's right. Oh my God.
And then be like, oh, LeBron actually doesn't want to play with you and doesn't think he can win with you. I could imagine how that could rattle a young person's confidence.
Yes, you're right.
And then you add on top of that the state that the Timberwolves were in for so long.
I totally forgot about that stint in Cleveland, Cathryn. Oh my gosh, poor guy. You're right. That's almost like to go from Cleveland and then to Minnesota. It's like, oh man, how do you feel? He must have felt so great getting traded to Golden State. That must have been the greatest day of his life.
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody.
Good for him. I'm happy for him.
I'm happy for him too, and I think the Warriors maybe like once this era has wrapped, there'll be a bit more of a retrospective on it. We've already done that a bit today, but I think people will start to see more just the organization itself and how good they've been, because I've been really impressed with how they have very quickly rebuilt around their core, and that not only did they rebuild around that core, they did it young. Minus Iguodala, but literally like everybody else is younger, like finding Jordan Poole and finding Gary Payton II and reviving Wiggins, reviving Otto Porter. Like,
I know.
I think it's just so like their scouting and the people they've found, the fact that they've been able to turn this around is extremely impressive. It's very Spurs-like. Right? Like the Spurs would go through this, right? Like with Duncan and Tony Parker and Ginobili, then it's like, okay, now we need new players around them. Oh, we need new players around them again. And they did it multiple times. Now they're able to do this. And it's just like, I think being able to revive Andrew Wiggins is the mark of a healthy organization.
Totally. And you're absolutely right. There seems to be like an elite level of franchises in the NBA. There's certainly tiers, and Golden State and the Spurs are right up there on the top tier. And I would like to say that the Raptors as well, in terms of how we draft and what we're trying to do with our team. So yeah, you're absolutely right though. Golden State, again, their franchise top to bottom seems to be just well done. And you're right about Otto Porter. Oh, I loved him coming out of college. He was long, and then he could play. Another guy who landed in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
He was on Washington for a while. Washington wasn't a good fit for him. But yeah, Golden State, they just seem to get the best out of players. And again, that's a mark of a good team. You get the best out of your guys. You're like, okay, this guy can fit in our team. Let's see what he can do. It's just like it's winning culture, right? It's like we just want to win here. That's whatever it takes to win.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at other organizations, I think what they would do or have done is they try to go for the marquee name. I mean, look at the Lakers, right?
Oh
They're
man.
like, oh, we need all of these marquee guys, and let's get rid of our depth for them. And like, I mean, obviously, like the Knicks are guilty of that. There's a lot of organizations that are guilty of that think they can attract free agents or do attract free agents. I think, Miami is somewhere in the middle where it's like they are trying to get the free agents, but they do have better development than those other teams because they do have like a Tyler Hero
Yep.
and Bam Adebayo. So they're kind
Mm-hmm.
of like somewhere in the middle. But and I don't mean that in a bad way with
No.
respect to Miami, but I just think a lot of teams make that mistake of like, oh, like we need certain stars now. And I think the Warriors could have easily fallen into that trap, and somehow they didn't.
They really know who they are as a team. They kind of know what they're looking for. Their core is so solid. It seems like they haven't broken it up. Draymond
Mm-hmm.
and Clay being out for a long time, but still even Clay, somebody who they weren't willing to part with in any way. Steph is Steph, and like having those three guys around, people want to gravitate to you. They see how you win. They see how you win in like San Francisco, California too, which is a bonus. And
Yeah.
like, you know, they're a great team. They really are. And the Lakers, we'll see about them coming up. But again, another team that just decided to rip the band-aid off an actual team and just plug and play roster positions based. I don't know. It's like a weird jersey sales tactic or something. It just, if you look at all the players that they gave up, there's a lot of talent playing elsewhere right now that could have
You're
been on that
referring to the
team.
Lakers.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they've let a lot of really good guys go.
Yeah, I mean, the Pelicans got further than them this year. And that
Exactly.
was the big trade. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that says it all. Just lastly, before we go into other NBA
Yeah,
topics with this series, I just wanted to say real quick, like, we've been doing a lot of like pro Warriors talk, but I also will just say like shout out to Al Horford. He's been incredible
totally.
this series so far. I think it's not quite the same as like reviving like Wiggins, because I think it was just he was on like a really hefty contract, and that's why he got traded to OKC and they asked him to sit out. And Boston
Yeah.
was smart enough to see that he still had tons of potential. And then they also brought back Daniel Tice. So I think they were trying to like regroup that bubble Boston team a bit there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they've
That's a good
also
point.
have been building very well. How do we think these next two games in Boston are going to go?
Oh man. I think Boston's got to win Game 3. I think they can. I expect them to come out with everything, but so does Golden State. I think it'll be. I like Boston to win. That's my gut is telling me Golden State's going to win, but I want Boston to win. Do you know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
if they don't, then all the pressure in the world is on them for Game 4. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
go down 3-1 heading back to Golden State, you're in big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Boston can come out. I think they will win Game 2. I know they can. They've obviously proven that they can beat them away. So with their home crowd, Golden State is going to really lay back and try to take their best punch. So, but Boston needs to. I think they need to secure a big lead, kind of almost right away, and they got to try to get some guys in foul trouble. They got to try to control the ref part of it as well,
Mm-hmm.
if they can, in whatever way they can. They need to make the game theirs. They can't, like Golden State, go up 10, 15 early. Like, you take the crowd out of it, especially, that's going to be a big problem. So, but I do think Boston can win, and I like them to win Game 3. Game 4, make it interesting. I would think Golden State will come back. I think it'll be a punch counter punch for the first 4 games.
I think that the opposite is going to happen.
Okay.
I think what's going to happen is Game 3. Obviously, we're not fortune tellers, but what I think is going to happen is Game 3 is going to be really close, and I think the Warriors will squeeze out and they'll win. And then I think they're going to get cocky, because one thing I really dislike about the Warriors is that they get very complacent. very easily, and they're a little too high on themselves sometimes. And then I think in game 4 they're going to get cocky, and then it could be like a Boston blowout win.
Oh, okay.
And then we come back and then we go back to San Francisco for game 5.
Both
And then that's
storylines
the
are
real, because game 5 is always that
Mhm.
real series breaker kind of game.
Yeah, only 3 left.
Yeah.
No,
Because they even like as every series they've had one game where they just completely bombed and didn't show up. And I think game 1, even though they lost, I think they very much showed up, and just Boston was just shooting lights out at the very end. But yeah, I think game 4 is going to be the game where the Warriors shit the bed a little bit.
We'll see. It's going to be good though. It'll be good basketball.
Yeah, I will say this, regardless, either way, doesn't really matter who wins 3 or who wins 4. I think we're getting a 7-game finals here.
Agreed.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, let's move on to some of the coaching changes that have happened so far. So we talked a little bit about the Lakers. They've hired Darvin Ham, who I believe was an assistant with the Bucks. I should have looked that up earlier. And Quin Snyder has announced that he is stepping down from the Jazz. Let's talk a bit about the Lakers first. I phrased this question to you as, do they have a hope in hell?
Oh man,
because that really is the question, is that, do they have any hope at all? He did a brief interview with Malika Andrews, I think it was earlier today, and he talked about the adjustments that he wants to make, and they sounded pretty solid, actually. Like, he said in his conversation with Westbrook, who knows if Westbrook will still be on the team, but he said in his conversation with Westbrook, he used the word sacrifice a lot, and he wants to get back to Westbrook being a stronger defensive asset for the team, which is the adjustment that needs to be made. And it's, will he do it is the real question there. But everything he said, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That is what needs to change. It's just, will they be selfless enough to do it?
That's the tricky part. I think they have some weird pieces, right? Like, their team is just so strange. They've got these big assets, and then they've got this weird trickle down bench. A lot of, again, Darvin Ham, I don't know. I think you're totally right about assistant with Milwaukee. I looked it up. I think he's been an assistant with Atlanta before, maybe, but it seemed to be he was an NBA assistant for 10 years, and he's garnered a good reputation. From what I was reading about him when they were thinking about hiring him, he's like a bit of a player's coach, so he's got that kind of vibe. Again, everything is kind of out in the wash, really. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen with that team. If they start poorly, I think that they will bomb the year. Yeah. And again, I think a lot of it hinges on Anthony Davis. The guy is amazing when he plays. He's so good when he plays, but he just can't seem to string together enough, even like not even playing 75 games, just this chunk of like 40 in a row, even. Just, he's always hurt. I feel horrible for the guy. But if he's out all the time, they're in big trouble, because LeBron is going to be 38, and he's a great player, but they need more than LeBron and a Westbrook who's not listening to the team's needs. Like, it was last year, it was bad basketball. They had some really horrible games, that Laker team. Were embarrassing losses. Like, you can't have that kind of thing and expect to win, even make the playoffs, let alone win a championship. And again, they didn't deserve to make the playoffs, to be honest.
No.
I don't know what they're going to do.
I completely agree. I think so much of it hinges on Anthony Davis's health. Yeah. And, you mentioned LeBron's age. I mean, I was very much under the impression that LeBron was going to take a bit of a back seat, and Anthony Davis was supposed to become the number one on this team, right? And it just hasn't happened. And
I think he wanted to.
I mean, we saw how Chris Paul, God bless, crumbled immediately after his 37th birthday.
Oh, poor guy.
Something that really hurt my soul, because we're the same age. But I was like, no, am I going to crumble? But I'm not an athlete. But yeah, like I just, again, LeBron's somebody we're all gonna miss. People love
Oh yeah,
to shit on that guy, but when he's done, I'm telling you, you're gonna miss watching a player that's that great. And
yeah,
and I don't know. It's weird to see the tail end of his career go like this. But I agree. I don't everybody talks about, hiring more black coaches in the NBA. And of course, I agree. And I think that's really important. But it's also about setting people up to succeed. I mean,
yep.
like, look at the Houston Rockets. They try to do that whole thing, right? With Coach Silas.
I think so.
I'm blanking on his name. And they were like, yeah, like, look at us. We're hiring the black coach that's been an assistant in this league for a long time. Oh, by the way, we've traded the whole team away.
Yeah,
And
uh,
it's like you're not setting him up to succeed. So it's just like, I don't know. It's a bit of a performative thing, I think, with some teams.
yeah.
Obviously, not with the Celtics, but but I think with certain teams, it's been a little performative in a way that I don't particularly like. And I think with with the Lakers, I'm sensing a bit of that.
I mean,
That's very
I
controversial
certainly,
on my
yeah.
part, probably.
Hey, it's for me. If you hand the keys to the Lakers head coach, no matter who it is, it's a big job. Like it's like huge markets are different in pro sports, and so you're dealing with one of the best players in the history of the game is in your locker room. You've got, I don't know, he's got a lot of stuff that he needs to change. And I don't think it's going to be simple for any coach to change those things. But maybe just the fact that he's somewhat of an unknown to that squad, maybe he can come in and really win them over and they play for him and they do something. But they need to sort out that bench. You can't expect LeBron to play 35 to 38 minutes a game when he's 38. Like you have to be able to alleviate some of those minutes, especially if you want him for the playoffs. So,
Mhm.
I they're in a weird spot. I think they could have another bad year unless they make a move. And it's gonna be, I don't know who the heck they're gonna sell the Russell Westbrook contract to, because it's the worst buyer's market for him maybe ever in his whole career. Right? He's just another year older.
Mhm.
He had a pretty all over the place year, subpar from his standards. If you trade him now, you're gonna, maybe you get picks, but they don't want picks. I don't know. They're in a weird spot. It's not a good
I
time to
think they're
be
gonna keep
a Lakers
Westbrook.
fan. I agree. I think they have to. I don't think they can
I
move him.
Yeah, I think maybe they tried it. Like, I'm sure they tried, and then I think they were like, "Screw it, we're better off just keeping him."
He's a good player. He's an amazing basketball player. He, if they can direct him in the right way and utilize a different element of his skill set, if he can be like you said, if he can be their defensive weapon and a facilitator, the guy he's shown he can average 12 assists a game. He can average league high in assists, 14 assists. If he led the league in assists and was top 5 in steals, he'd probably be doing the best he could for that team. You know, and maybe get like average like 18 points a game and like 14 assists, and then however many rebounds you can get without sacrificing all of your defensive positioning.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree, and I think the only other thing I'll add to this for now, because I'm sure we'll have like a whole off season to go on about it more. But
Mm-hmm.
I think LeBron's a notorious coach killer. This guy's
Yeah.
had a lot of coaches in his career, and I wish Darvin Ham all the best, but
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous for him personally. I don't
Oh
think
yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit nervous for him. The Quin Snyder news, I think I'll note on this is I think it's really this situation feels a bit unique to me because he resigned. So he wasn't
Mm-hmm.
fired, he resigned. And that felt like a formality out of like good faith because he's been with the team for so long.
Yeah.
But then they had this press conference and Quin Snyder was emotional and Danny Ainge was like, "We don't want to see him go." And then Donovan Mitchell has come out and said that he's not happy with the fact that Quin Snyder is leaving. So that is like a twist I didn't see coming, because everybody was kind of like, yeah, this is going to be his last year. Sure, he's a good coach, but he seems to have lost his voice with the locker room. It's just been too many years and they haven't been able to get over this hump. But yeah, those reactions I found to be a bit surprising. And I don't know what this Jazz team's going to do. I know there's a lot of trade rumors with both Gobert and Mitchell, but I have a feeling Danny Ainge isn't going to blow this up so quickly or so easily.
I don't think he will. I don't think he wants to get rid of those two. But that, yeah, the Quin Snyder stuff's weird. Him just kind of like abruptly leaving. It's a really strange time in the season for that to happen too. There's not a whole heck of a lot going on right now for him to just announce it and
because I think if they were going to fire him, sorry, Ian, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're right.
I think if they were going to fire him, it would have been after they lost in the playoffs, because now is when all the coaching hiring is happening. The Hornets are also hiring a coach. I think I saw on ESPN that they've narrowed it down to Kenny Atkinson and Mike D'Antoni, which is interesting. So it's like they've already narrowed their search down to 2. I think Quin Snyder is going to take a year off and go surfing. He has that California surfer dude accent.
Dude, and he's got the nice, like the coiffed hair.
Yeah, like, and he's got that coiffed hair. He's very California. He's very California vibes. And I think he's just going to go surfing in his bulletproof vest for a while.
I could see that happening. Also,
that sounds heavy. Like, I think surfing, like a bulletproof vest filled with water would be very heavy.
Probably not the ideal thing, but I mean, maybe you have a life
if you're getting look, if you're afraid of getting shot out in these seas, out in the deep water.
There's a walrus with a sniper rifle on a rock somewhere. No, I think for Donovan Mitchell and Gobert, that's weird too, because they have not seemingly seen eye to eye in a long time. Do you remember when Gobert, when the COVID stuff was just starting and he touched all the mics?
Oh yeah.
And then everybody got COVID and everyone in the league was like, what was that? Like, why did you do that? So even before that, I think there was some Donovan Mitchell, Gobert rumblings. I could see one of them. The thing about Donovan Mitchell, though, he doesn't strike me as somebody who would come out and demand a trade. And coming out and demanding a trade has seemingly been a bad look for a lot of NBA stars lately. It didn't really work for Ben Simmons at all. So I don't think he will do anything like that, but I don't think he's happy for sure. I feel like Donovan Mitchell, again, somebody who really is a competitor, and he wants to win. So if he's stuck in Salt Lake City and he's not winning, he's going to be peeved, So the Utah situation is interesting. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, I agree. It's very interesting. My sort of impression of Danny Ainge is that I think he's very open to trading either or both, but he is not the type to trade them for parts.
No,
he's not interested in trading for parts and then doing a long haul rebuild like the Houston Rockets are. I don't think he's that guy. And I think there's going to be a lot of offers thrown back and forth all summer long. And it's going to be really interesting if somebody pulls the trigger. And if it happens, it'll be a blockbuster deal.
Yeah, Danny Ainge is going to want to win the trade. And he's going to have to
he's very that type.
Trade with somebody who like Sacramento, like Vivek or something, where they're just like just constantly making bad moves.
Yeah, maybe they'll get Sabonis out of it.
Right? Yeah, maybe they'll get Sabonis. Right? Like I could see it happening, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's move on to our Raptors Homer Moment. So I was very annoyed at the timing of these OG Anunoby trade rumors because it was literally right after my episode dropped last week. I was like, no. But a lot of that's been going around. I think the Raptors Republic did a really great job And shout out to Locked On Raptors. Sean Woodley did a great job of kind of breaking down what these trade rumors really are, and that it's more about other teams being really interested in OG than it is about him being unhappy here. Are you buying any of these rumors? How do you feel about them?
I don't think so. I don't think that I'm buying it. OG doesn't seem like the type of person who would let a leak out. I feel like he's pretty close to the vest in how he operates. Again, I don't know the guy, but just from his reputation.
You know what it is, though? He's with Clutch Sports.
Oh, yeah. And
they're very like that. Like, I think this is a Clutch Sports PR
totally
scheme just to drum up positive press
get
for
his
him,
name
to
in the
make
press.
him more high profile. That's truly what I think it is.
You're probably absolutely right on that. I would agree. That's a Clutch Sports thing. But I mean, also, he's a great player. If you look at his stats, his usage is going up. He's playing more minutes every year. He's only 24 years old. He can do everything well. When your name is in trade rumors, when there's nothing really substantiated around them, it just means people, again, like Clutch Sports and other teams are talking about him, are interested in him. I think he's a great player, and every year I like to say that I think he's going to have his best year. And I think, again, he's another guy who has these weird injuries. He doesn't have crazy debilitating ones, but they tend to be, he's out for a long time, these strange injuries. He hasn't put together a season where he's played like 75 plus games, 80 games yet. So if he can play all 82 games or 80 games, he'll be amazing, and he'll be so impactful with that team, the way that we play. And I'm excited for OG, and I don't think he's going anywhere. I hope.
Yeah, I think on one hand, I do think OG is an extremely strong trade asset for us if we are looking, and I think we probably are. But I also think Masai is like deeply invested in OG Anunoby. Like he's been here from the beginning of his career. I think Masai is emotionally invested, not just basketball invested, but emotionally invested in OG Anunoby. And again, like, I think people have this idea of Masai, like, oh, like, this guy's crazy, man. He'll do any kind of trade. And it's like, he didn't trade DeMar DeRozan for just anybody.
No.
It was Kawhi Leonard. So I think like Masai will not just trade OG, but I do think he would consider it maybe a little more than we as fans would like, because I do think OG is overall a fan favorite. But he is an incredibly strong trade asset for us, depending on who's out there.
Masai is another one of these GMs who's going to really want to win the trade, and he historically does.
He very historically does, yeah.
Right. If OG got traded, I would be saddened, but I would also look at who he got, and I'd be like, I am a little bit happier as well. So I hope it doesn't happen, though, because I think that the way that this team plays, they all really seem to get along, and a good locker room is maybe at this point worth more than a better potential team on paper.
Yeah, and I don't think
he's only 25.
Yeah, and I don't think the Raptors are in a serious win now mode type situation either, where we would need to make a borderline desperate trade. Not to say it would be
all
desperate.
Of our best players are coming up into their primes.
Yeah, so
we are in a very good position if you look at our stars and how old they are. So you're totally right. I feel like unless we get kind of a Godfather offer for OG, I feel like he stays.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
I agree. And I don't believe he's unhappy. I think that's just, and Scottie Barnes kind of came out and dispelled that too, which was really nice. And, shout out to Scottie Barnes for attending those CBL games. Is that what it's called?
Oh,
I don't.
the one with J. Cole, the lead
Yeah,
Cole.
look,
Oh, he went. I didn't see that. That's cool.
yeah, he went to support, which was really nice. Sorry, like for anybody listening, and then they're like, "Oh, how could you not know the name of that league?" I also cover the WNBA, and that's a lot of basketball. I don't have the time to cover more than 2 leagues,
Two leagues
but
is a lot of leagues.
that's a lot of leagues. But
It
shout out
is.
to J. Cole and Scottie Barnes. I think that's really fun.
Totally. Absolutely.
Um, who would you like to see on the Raptors next season?
I was looking this up a little while ago, actually, kind of looking at the free agents. There's a guy, I think he played for Washington last. He got injured last year. Thomas Bryant. He's a big man, the center. I had him on my fantasy team, and I don't like to equate fantasy stats to real life because I believe in watching the games and seeing how they play. But like he's very good around the rim. He finishes really, really well. He puts up a super high field goal percentage. And his contract is like not outrageous. I think he could be a good fit off of our bench if we needed to like throw a few big bodies at a star like Giannis or something like that. We just need to have somebody who can come in and body him. He might work and fit that role. In terms of our perimeter and our guard situation, I think we're well sorted. So I'm not
Yeah,
looking.
it's all
I'm
about the
not.
bigs for me too.
Yeah, it's not look. I don't want to break up what we have to get another wing or get another guard because I think our wings and guards, like you said, are kind of really good. So if I'm gonna go big, it is all about the bigs. And I think that he would be our best fit. I think he's a free agent too. I
That's
think.
amazing.
Yeah.
I like this deep dive. I think that is what's gonna happen is we're gonna get this obscure big, and then we're gonna be like, "Who is this?" And then they're gonna take him to the real jerk or something like they did with Scottie Barnes last summer, and then all of a sudden we're gonna be like, "We love this guy."
It's a great city, you know. I mean, if you come here and you're playing NBA basketball, the arena's right downtown. There's so much good food in town. You know, it would be awesome to play here. I'm not surprised that Scottie Barnes is here and he's like, this is great. You know, he's having a great time. It's an awesome place to be. I'm so happy for all those kids. I can say that they're kids now that I'm like almost 40. I can be like, I'm happy for those kids and mean it, and mean it.
That's where we're at now, Ian. That's where
Oh
we're
my
at.
gosh, don't remind
Uh
me.
One last thing I'll say about OG Anunoby in terms of like clutch sports, I think it was the exact same thing with the Nick Nurse rumors in the Lakers back in April. I think it's all the same spin team
Totally.
looking at their clients, looking at, that's just what they do. Speaking of which, it's our Nick Nurse hottie highlight of the week. As people know who are regulars of this podcast, the off season, Nick Nurse is laying a little low right now. Actually, from a good friend of ours, Miguel Rivas, who's the brother of Freddie Rivas, who hosts Confederacy of Dunks, got to do some acting with Nick Nurse recently,
Yeah.
and told me it was an amazing experience. So hopefully Freddie doesn't poach him before me, and I get to get him on this show, and we can talk about his Nick Nurse experience, which was overall very, very pleasant and delightful. Yeah, but Ian, my question to you, as it is the off season, what is your favorite Nick Nurse moment?
There's a lot of really good ones. I like when he came out and played guitar. Who was he playing with again? I
The
tried.
Arkells.
That's who it was. It was just such a wholesome moment. You could tell he was really enjoying himself. You could tell he felt like he had, it's weird to extrapolate, but like I felt like he's like, I have a home. Like this is where, you know what I mean? Like he just was so happy to be a part of the organization and the city and everything. That was cool. But I also really like this acting part because I was looking up what he's been up to. And yeah, it's posted on his Wikipedia. So I think I can say like what it is.
Go for
Right?
it.
Yeah, like he's gonna be on Murdoch Mysteries.
He's
I'm
been
pretty
on
sure.
Murdoch
He's
Mysteries.
been on it. Is it out? Can I watch it?
Yeah, you can. It's real
Stop
cringe.
it.
It's real cringe. It's just like this old he plays, I think he plays like a basketball coach or some like locker room cleanup guy, and he's like, this little game called basketball might take off someday.
Yeah, they have like
And then
one
there's like a
line.
weird Raptors pun, like a little wink nod to the audience.
Oh my God.
It's I love how much Nick loves being a celebrity.
He's great. He's a really likable guy, honestly. And I'm so happy that he's the coach, because I think that if I look at the players on our team and who they're being coached by, it makes me happy. It makes me think that they can really do something, you know?
Mhm.
Like, it's just good. It's just a good vibe.
I completely agree. Um, Ian, that brings us to the end of this episode, almost exactly an hour, which is pretty
Amazing.
impressive. But let us know what you're up to again. Shout out your show again in Ottawa, and let us know where people can find you on the internets.
Yeah. So yeah, Laugh Lounge in Ottawa, 24th, 25th of June. I'm excited to play that club. It's gonna be fun. And you can follow me on Instagram. It's probably my most active social media. My handle is shirt_Gordon. So yeah, give me a follow, and thank you so much for having me on the show. It was really fun.
Oh, thank you. And for everyone else, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at itsme_Cathryn, spelled Cathryn. Thank you again for listening, and we'll catch you back next time. Bye.
Bye.